It's very interesting. Tell us a bit about it. Now, this one's also kind of in that sort of techno fantasy world, but it's a little bit different.
Yeah, from the cover and like the design of it, it feels like a Western type. Like Seven to
Western
Eternity just
frontier,
feels like
right?
it's gonna be some sort of Western.
Yeah.
And then and then I open the pages and go, not really. Apparently,
Yeah, I have
first of
to.
all, yeah. First of all, like the artwork is amazing. Running just back through these pages, like the detail work and colors, just yeah. But so with the first issue, you're basically following this particular family, which again is a name I will not remember offhand.
So I just looked that up. Yeah, so you follow, even just on the front page, you see a guy with two sort of energy blades. You see a girl with a cross, with a, I'm sorry, with a bow, and you see this guy with what looks like a shotgun with these sort of like monsters kind of floating in the sky. Um, it is very out there, very different. I really like it. Because, like I said, it's sort of in that techno fantasy that you are following this family that has been essentially ousted,
Outcast. Yeah, they've been
outcast. Yeah, they've been outcast and kind of forced to live in the wild in hardship because they're very proud people. Their family's very proud, and they don't want to, bend the knee to this. I think his name is
the Mud King.
the Mud King. There we go. And
Yeah,
you
there
would
we
think
go. It was the
the
Mud King.
Mud King kind of is this character who uh, he influences other characters by whispering lies and promises, and then when the second you start buying into his promises, he kind of starts taking control of you, and you become kind of like one with him. You become like one entity with him. I mean, sure, you look like yourself, but you kind of your thoughts and emotions are twisted and warped to just essentially believe everything he says. So he's a really big manipulator, and because this family decided to go against him, they are outcast because they don't want to accept the lies that he's telling them and essentially give them their will to control. So he made everybody else hate them. He made everybody else. He made brother go against brother, kingdom against kingdom, war against each other, just so he could gain complete domination of anyone left in the scraps.
Yeah. So, by like the first issue, you're introduced to this family, and it's already kicked off in the sense like they've been, from what you can tell, this family has been living in the wilderness or living their lives for years, and then suddenly someone finds them, and then you've learned out it's just the minions of the Mud King, still trying to force the family to make an offer. And as you do learn, as he's the head of the family has to go and travel back to the kingdom. Like at this point, you don't really know exactly what's going on. You just see him talking about the life he's led until by the end of the issue, he's officially back into the main city, right in front of the Mud King, which I didn't expect to see. I thought it'd be like a long dragged out. You'll never see the main boss ever. But by issue one, it's like the character you're following is right in front of uh,
Of this infamous Mud King.
yeah, here's the Mud King. It's like issue one already.
Yeah, I didn't expect that to just all be in one book.
Yeah, like there's
Not
a
in,
lot of,
at very least, not the first issue.
yeah, there's like a
Uh,
lot of information like that you're being told right now, and then it seems like I'm missing a prologue somewhere. I'm in like maybe like
it's like you caught a movie
Empire. It
halfway and
feels
you're
like
just sitting
Empire.
down because it's free. You're just
Yeah, it's like you caught into Empire, did not see like A New Hope, and then somehow it jump cut to like Return of the Jedi, where he's like, "Yeah, the Emperor's right there." I'm like,
Yeah, it was a little bit fast, and because there's so many things to process, this is not a familiar world. I mean, maybe there's a forest or two there that looks familiar, but the rest of the world's really crazy, really outlandish.
like I
Not
like,
quite like either, where everything's like cartoony. Everything looks run down. Everything looks, there's like a bunch of huts. There's
but it's like beautifully illustrated
Yeah,
in that sense.
the
It's like
visuals are nice. The artwork's really nice. Very original stuff. Again, with sort of
this.
the techno fantasy. A lot of like magic is being used, but it is something that just glancing at the cover, you can see a lot of like nice color usage. I mean, I'm always a fan of that like purple bluish sky anyway. Um,
You got like a demonic a pipe piper who seems to summon demons from his flute. It's just
Yeah, it's really out there, and you have so much info to process, and in one book. And he said you already meet the main villain that everyone's talking about all in the first book. At the end of the first book, it's a lot to process, but it's also really beautiful, really nicely done, and I really liked it.
you can go back through these panels just soaking in all the things you missed just because you're trying to figure out like, all right, what's happening
Yeah,
here.
you know, like some people read the comics first and they're like, wait a second, and then some people just like go with the artwork and try to have the artwork tell most of the story. Um, and I feel both approaches are very well done. Like I said, it's a little busy at times, but that's kind of like I kind of like that in my comic books too.
It's a mix. Sometimes you don't want it too busy, but in most cases I always read through and then just appreciate later.
Yeah, and then you try to kind of like go through the pages and look through the artwork and really appreciate it. And like I said, I try to match up things I see and then kind of like with the dialogue that's being used, because you know, picture's worth 1,000 words, and a comic book has a ton of pictures in it. So sometimes just an image can kind of illustrate the feeling that you're trying to go for in a certain scene or a panel, and then a few choice words can kind of really nail that point across.
Like, yeah. By the end of the first issue, you're just left with so many questions of like, all right, how does this world work? Why is this family like this? And how did the Empire win? That's
Yeah, how did, because this story starts off with the bad guy essentially winning
like,
already.
yeah, it feels, and everyone on the planet seems to be on his side just because he's that powerful.
Yeah, just because they
Except for
were
one family. It's like one family has somehow like said no, and everyone's like, yeah, sure.
they're the outcasts. They're the ones who were in the wrong for rebelling against our great Mud King. You know that, and that's how it is. Like they
And
walk
why
two
Mud King?
places, and people kind of
Still,
like scorn them and stuff.
why Mud King? Like of all the names you can name yourself, I'm the Mud King. Let's stick to that title.
No clue. No clue at all.
And I'm looking, and by the end of the paper, you're looking at the guy who's like supposed to be the Mud King, and you're like, yeah, I don't see why they call him Mud King. He doesn't look like he's made out of mud.
Well, I know his Pied Piper kind of calls like these beasts out of the ground, and they're made of mud, but I don't think that's also why they call him the Mud King. There's got to be something deeper. Now, this is one where I actually did read a little bit ahead, not too many issues far ahead, but I definitely got.
Like 2 or 3 ahead.
Yeah,
like,
it gets kind of nutty.
Again, it feels like I've missed something. Like they go into flashbacks in like the next 2 issues, and then jump cuts back.
Jump
to
cuts
the
right back to the action.
like,
Yeah.
You're like, what? This is too much to process.
Yeah, and like I said, it's sometimes it gets a little busy with the amount of stuff and info you're meant to process. Um, it's still really good. Like I said, I love the visuals. I love what they're doing here. Very, very different stuff to what you're kind of used to seeing. Or I guess it depends on the type of comic book reader that you are. But to me, it's stuff that's been really different to what I've been reading lately. It is both gritty, but full of shapes and colors that are,
It's
you
like,
know,
yeah, the
kind of strike the balance between like the gritty world and kind of this
because
weird alien look to them. I feel like, I guess that's the right thing. It's like these things look very alien in this really dark and dirty world.
yeah, and parts of it, like it's like the world where the Mud King seems to reign. It's completely crap. It's browns, it's reds, it's dark. And in the beginning of the story, you're looking at this family who's living in exile, but it seems so paradise compared. Like there's greenery, there's the color green is a thing.
Yeah, that is true. I almost didn't spot that at the first go. When you mentioned it, I was like, yeah, they were in this lush forest kind of deal, and then as he moves closer to the domain of the Mud King, everything's like a rundown
desert
kind of
red
desert
setting.
mud brick. Everything's like yellows and browns. It looks very desolate. I guess maybe because he controls the people, he makes them see like, oh, this is a lush kingdom, when in reality everything's just gone to crap.
Oh yeah, and like there's just blind followers, just like, hey, you suck. And oh yeah, and the reason why they think they're living in such crap shape is because of a random family that's been exiled for X amount of years.
Yeah, they don't even really question why this family's, they just consider them essentially traitors for not following the Mud King, when they know better. They know that if you give up your free will, you give up everything.
That's just weird. But yeah, I have to refresh on those issues. I have to find an issue I can't seem to spot.
All right, so what else do